Hey y'all, this is William from Perma Pastures Farm, and today, or before we get started in this video, we're actually going to flip this compost. And now we're on day 11, and it's been raining pretty heavily the past couple of days, so we might have some anaerobic issues. I'm not really sure yet, but we're going to break into it. And if we do have some like waterlogging anaerobic issues, we'll address that once we open it up. So once we get to the center of this compost pile, we'll go ahead and talk about whether or not it's aerobic or anaerobic. And if it's anaerobic, how do you tell if it's anaerobic and stuff? So far, I don't really know yet. Just on the outside, you can see this little white material on this compost. I don't know if that's coming across on camera, but if that's not too bad yet. If it's in the center and it's really, really white in there, then we know we have an anaerobic issue. All right, so we're down in the middle of the compost pile, and there really isn't much anaerobic activity going on. The white stuff you see here is actually dead bacteria, not anaerobic bacteria, but that's an acceptable amount. If you were to break open your compost pile and it was like solid white in there, then you would have anaerobic issues. And if you had that, then you need to stick a 4-inch PVC pipe either vertically or horizontally in your compost pile, a 4-inch perforated PVC pipe, vertically or horizontally in your compost pile, and let it sit like that until your next flip. All right, so this compost is in pretty good shape right now. Well, I just realized there's a bunch of cow poop in here. But if you take like a handful of compost and you squeeze it together, you should be able to produce just like barely one drop. That's how you know your moisture content is correct. Since we had all that rain and we had this covered with a tarp, most of the rain was blocked, but it started soaking in underneath the tarp. So the way we fixed that was this morning, we uncovered the tarp and then let it sit in the sun all day until the end of the day when we just now flipped it. But since the moisture content is correct now, we'll go ahead and put the tarp back over it.
Hey y'all, Billy and Michelle from Perma Pastures Farm. It's been a tough week, and we're doing the one thing that we almost never do, and that's get away from the farm. As you can tell by the trees and stuff around us, well, this is clearly not it. We're at a much higher elevation, maybe double the elevation. We're approaching 6,684 feet. And where are we, honey? Show them. Mount Mitchell State Park. Yeah, they got us at the gift shop up here because I guess they realized that
Billy rushed us out of the house and we couldn't grab anything on the way. That's why.
Yeah, so we got to return this. We got to return something. So we said, it's kind of embarrassing. We've lived here all this time and have never, ever taken the time to get out and really look at anything. There's so much. I mean, we live in a place where people come to vacation. And because we love what we do so much, we almost never get out. So here we are, walking up through here. You drive through all these awesome rhododendrons. You drive through and you see so much. And you almost, if you're not careful, y'all, you almost become kind of tone deaf to the areas you live. And no matter where you are, you kind of miss all those things that you take for granted, everybody else doesn't. As we get to this elevation, it kind of puts into perspective. William was born at 6,000 feet in Colorado Springs when we were stationed there. And it kind of puts it into perspective. When you think Mount Mitchell, it's the tallest mountain this side of the Mississippi. And when you think of the Rockies, because we've lived in both of them, we've always been drawn to the mountains, both of us. I think that's why we were drawn to each other. All right, y'all, so this is proof. You can grow soil on rock. Look at that, you got lichen all around there. And what do you see growing out of the top of it? In many outcroppings, you see a bunch of rock, and you see trees growing out of it. In fact, this one right over here. But how many people walk by something like this where you got raspberries, or what looks like raspberries, just growing practically right out here of the rock? The other day in that interview with Danny from Deep South, You know, 9 times out of 10, people die in the wilderness and they're surrounded completely by food. Hey y'all, you want to know one thing? I've always been a person that notices patterns. And one thing, and Michelle, I know, could probably vouch for this. Whenever you go to like national parks in the United States, whether it's the Grand Canyon, places like this, any other, just listen. And not just for nature, but just listen to the accents. You know what you're going to find out? 9 times out of 10, the majority of the people that are looking at these natural wonders that we have here aren't even from the United States. There was at least 4 different accents I've noticed just walking around here. Some folks from India, a lady with the hardest Cockney accent I've ever heard. I mean, really, I was like, what language is that? And then, you know, I heard
people are still here.
They're up the hill. They can't hear nothing. They can't understand me anyhow. I'm speaking English, Jack. I'm speaking American. Okay. Anyway, I'm speaking American. I don't know what they were speaking. But anyway, you notice that when you come to all these different parks. It is pretty cool, y'all. I mean, but at the same time, it makes you wonder. I remember when we moved to Kansas, in the Kansas City area or near there. I remember I was still in college and I was taking this Kansas City history of Kansas City museums. And I remember doing that course and I learned a lot about the history of Kansas City. More, in fact, than all of the indigenous people that were from that area. I knew more about Kansas City than any of them. And it's funny that I wonder how many of these people that come here to visit our country know more about our natural wonders that are in our own backyards than we do. Something to think about. Well, like everybody else, you know, well, I guess not like everybody else. You know, I know a lot of people seek different ways to try to recenter and rebalance themselves. Well, for me, mountains have always been that thing for me. Even when I was a kid, I remember growing up in Oklahoma, I would often go by myself. I mean, Oklahoma isn't known for its mountains. And when you live in central Oklahoma, the nearest mountain range I could find was Mount Scott, all the way down in Lawton, Oklahoma. I would go down there by myself and I'd camp out by myself. I mean, usually couldn't get anybody to go with me. Every once in a while you could. But I always found myself somehow centered, not just in nature, but especially at high peaks. You know, I haven't seen any burning bushes or anything like that, but I always wondered why in the Bible where so many people would go to high mountains to seek the Lord. And, you know, I think I get it a little bit. I think I always have, at least to some extent. I don't know, maybe you just feel closer. I know he's omnipresent and omnipotent and all that stuff, but I don't know, you just somehow feel closer. I guess that's the best way I know how to describe it. But it is always a joy to get out, so it's kind of astonishing that I don't do it more often, that we don't do it more often. So, folks, in spite of everything that's going on in this world, and I'm talking to me when I say this, but try as best you can to enjoy the simpler things in life. Now, that doesn't, for me, that doesn't mean going to a movie house or you know, engaging in what?
A movie house?
What?
A theater, Dad?
Yeah, whatever they call them. Okay, apparently they call them theaters, according to William. I guess, you know, when I get home and I have to hit the bathroom, I call it a water closet. Don't know what that is, do you? Anyway. You know, even when you come out in these places, I mean, I can't help from a permaculture designer standpoint. Everything I look at, in fact, when you take a permaculture design certificate, you never really look at the world again the same. Like, for example, and you've heard me talk about it before if you've watched any of these videos, that for every 1,000 feet you go up, you move a latitude north. So even though I'm here in Western North Carolina, at this 6,684 feet, I might as well be standing in Canada, even with, you know, by virtue of the wildlife, and not the wildlife so much, but the trees and everything around me. It's like you're standing in Canada, quite literally, Southeast Canada. So you can also think, at least from that permaculture's eye, and when you live on a property like mine where it's literally 1,000 feet from the bottom to the top, you can do things, you can do extraordinary things that you didn't think you could do. So things that I could, you know, grow in maybe zone 5 or zone 4, I can actually do it at those higher elevations. You see it all the way around you. Even if you live in lower elevations, ask yourself, you know, how far can you push the limits in spite of all the things that are happening with our weather right now? There are folks out there telling you maybe consider growing something from a latitude north. I think that's wise counsel. I think it's wise. But you honestly get to feel that because quite literally it was t-shirt weather right before we drove up here. And now here it is, you know, yeah, they sucked me down for $40 to get it. Apparently they're making a killing down there because I know better and I still came up here unprepared. So yeah, lesson to me. Need to have this stuff with us at all times. But hey, y'all, like I said, just kind of take a look around the world. I mean, take a good look at the world around you right now. And I know we're not the first people that saw things crumbling down around you, but it does really center you to get away from the hustle and bustle, even if you love it. There's such a thing as having too much of a good thing. So you got to get out. Just like Mark Twain said, and you've heard me say it before, you know, you can't appreciate, you can't value all the world around you when you vegetate in your own area all one's portion of life. I remember getting out of the Army, going back to Oklahoma initially. And I remember a lady would brag about the fact that she had never crossed the state line in her 50 years. That's insane. I mean, it's not like we're still in horse and buggy. So get out there. I'm not saying get far from the house. I'm just saying there may be some things that may center you and change your perspective about the whole world around you, maybe within minutes of your place. It could be anything. This is how I do it. This is how I've always done it, as far as back as I can remember. So, yeah, where I might have seemed a little aggravated, or where I was aggravated in that last video. In fact, Ben from Renewed Homestead called up. He was a little concerned about me, like, hey, man, you sure you're all right? And that phone call was literally just a few hours ago. So on a whim, we just pretty much came out here and said, okay, let's just go walk off the beaten trail for a little bit. And I'm glad we did. All right, y'all. So remember, if you need bone sauce, comfrey, anything else, just check out the website. We got a lot of stuff there. Check the link down below. Look, y'all, I'm going to quit talking now, and I'm going to go enjoy my family and enjoy the top of this side of the United States of amnesia. All right, till next time, this is Billy from Perma Pastures Farm. We'll see you.